and we across South Africa to get South Africa moving in the right direction again.
Plan to replicate
If elected, we pledge to do the following: create 300,000 jobs in KwaZulu-Natal by investing in infrastructure, supporting businesses, and helping to create jobs. Done.
By investing in infrastructure, supporting businesses, and helping to create jobs. Done.
Mervyn Govender, EFF.
Okay, thank you. The first and foremost issue on our manifesto is that 18
Mervyn
million
Govender, EFF.
jobless. The other issue that's a cornerstone of this manifesto is people are landless in this country. And we have a long history of 350 years of landlessness in terms of the indigenous folks of this country. The next issue is Section 25 of the Constitution, which is recapitalization of the land.
Is Section 25 of the Constitution, which is
where minerals are in terms of coal, so we can stop load shedding. We're 100% sure that
where minerals are in terms of coal, so we can stop
rand at the moment is 3 rand. We should reduce
sure that
the watt kilowatt per watt. The other issue is the issue of crime and corruption within the government sector. And obviously,
the other issue is the issue of
fought
crime
for in all
and
these
corruption
student
within the
structures for
government
free
sector.
quality.
And obviously,
The other issue is the issue of health. We want 24-hour clinics that will be open to our
the other
people,
issue is the issue of health.
to our
We
people
want
that cannot
24-hour
long distances in terms of their
to our
morning
people, to our indigenous people, to our people
rides with
that cannot
taxis, etc. So
travel
we
long
want those
distances in
clinics
terms of,
actually
the
24
morning,
hours, so people can actually,
with taxis,
even
etc.
after
So
hours, they
we
can
want
have
those
access to
clinics actually
public
24 hours,
healthcare.
so people can.
The other issue is that we
Even after
intend
hours, they
doubling
can have
our
access
social
to
grants,
a public,
and you may ask
healthcare.
how
The
I
other
will
issue is that we intend doubling our social grants. And you may ask how. I will
Manzoor
get
Imam
into it
Sheikh.
and unpack it later.
Okay, we've got
Well, I think the
Ahmed
manifesto
Manzoor
is
Imam Sheikh.
implementation, and we've heard
Very good evening to you.
many
Well, I
manifestos.
think a manifesto is as
All of them
good
have been
as its
implemented.
implementation, and we've heard for 30 years many
Let me start off
manifestos.
with the Allied
And
movement
if
for
all of them
change.
have been implemented, then I don't think we'll be sitting here today.
Economic growth.
But let me start off with the Allied movement for change. The emphasis, number one, is on economic growth, which will lead
More
to job
important.
creation, particularly in the agricultural sector,
And of
in
all
the
of
infrastructure
creating
development, more importantly, also in the manufacturing sector, and of course, creating an industry in the finishing of minerals in the mining sector as well.
Not what we
So that's the first thing. On the issue of education, we're talking about the emphasis on quality education and not what we have today as far as quantity that is concerned. On the health, we can tell you now that the NHI will collapse. It's certainly going to collapse. The Allied movement for change is saying that we want a preventative healthcare system. Why wait for people to get sick and die? Right, prevent them from getting health. So we'll be deploying healthcare workers, medical practitioners, and all other facilities for timeless intervention as far as
3 million people
and that is concerned. And
yet we
as far as housing, we are saying 3 million people don't have homes in this. But yet we control every
including
municipality.
single parent.
Why is it that we are not able to
Why
give the
not
dignity back to all South
piece of
Africans,
land,
including
and provide
single-parent families who do not have
those as
houses?
and when you
Why
can.
not subdivide today and give them a piece of land and provide those utility bills as and when you can?
Govender, IFP.
And, there's a whole lot more, but we'll go through it later.
But IFP,
Les Govender, IFP.
to a point where
Thank you very much and greetings once again. For the IFP,
we have now reached a pivotal point where we cannot continue along the same trajectory and expect a different.
We have now reached a pivotal point where we cannot continue along the same trajectory and expect a different result. The party in power at the moment has had 30 years in which to make our country work, to make our country a safe place, and to give a dignified life to all our citizens. But unfortunately, they have failed. And so we are saying to the country at large, the time has come now for us to put our cross at the right place so that we can make the changes that is needed. The first thing that we will focus on is job creation.
jobs, not
And
EPWP jobs.
When we talk about job creation, we are talking about sustainable jobs, not EPWP jobs that will last for 3 to 6 months and then the people are unemployed again.
And we are
We're
saying
talking
that
about meaningful jobs that people will be able to lead dignified lives. And we are saying that 80% of job opportunities must go to South African citizens.
Against
And 20% can go to foreigners. We are not against foreigners, but we are against undocumented foreigners who are in our country and are conducting business, not paying taxes, and really ruining the economy of our country. So we are saying that 80% of the jobs must go to South African citizens, and that money will circulate within our country, improve the economy, and give a dignified life to our people.
Monroe. I got a Simon Park action essay.
Thank you very much.
I can't say Monroe.
Our
I got a
manifesto is
Simon
very
Park action essay.
easy and
Thank you very much.
we want to fix South Africa.
Our manifesto is very,
The
very
only way
simple
we can
and
fix South
easy and
Africa is to
straight.
get the right people.
We want to fix South Africa.
Government and our
The
first
only way we
priority
can fix South Africa if we get the
prioritize
right people in
infrastructure development,
government.
economic
Our
growth,
first priority is to
education,
prioritize infrastructure development for
job
economic growth,
stable jobs,
quality education, championing in-source to create
and
jobs,
safety for all our
stable
people in
jobs,
South Africa.
crime and crime and safety for all
Our
our people
hospitals are
in
in
South
shambles at
Africa.
the moment. You
Transforming
cannot
healthcare. Our hospitals are in
medical
shambles at the moment.
Our
You can
hospitals
see you cannot get any
to
medical treatment at our hospitals,
transport is
leading to
there's no transport
fight
in the
against
industry.
crime and corruption.
Country is actually
Transport
broken.
is,
Action Aid is the
there's
only
no
party
transport in
to
the
fix it.
country. This country is actually broken. Action Aid is the only party who will be able to fix this country. Thank you.
Okay. And then lastly, Rashid Getta from the Sun Party. Okay.
The Sun
And then
Party
lastly,
is
Rashid Getta from the Sun Party.
return to God-conscious leadership. Party is based on the ethos of a return to God-conscious leadership society. By transforming society into a just and equitable society. Is through economic growth. The objective to do this, the priority number one, is through economic growth. We have a guaranteed, tried and tested plan that has worked in every country, in every successful country. And it is a simple way by beneficiating the products, the mineral wealth in this country. We are exporting all the raw materials, and we want to incentivize manufacturing so that we can export the finished product and thereby create the necessary employment. We have come to the conclusion that politics is too serious a matter to leave to the current politicians. On the campaign trail, we have been witnessing people that require boreholes. There is a lack of water. When you open the taps, there is no water in the village areas. This is a total indignity to the people of this country. And we will assure South Africans that if we are given a chance, we will ensure that South African people will have a much better life than where they find themselves today. We encourage you to go out there and vote. The smaller parties have small resources, but they have a great vision. The bigger parties have been given 30 years, but they have failed.
Thank you. All the party representatives for opening remarks. And we say thank you to all the party representatives for your opening remarks and for keeping to the time.
Some questions.
Now we get to the part where I get to ask some questions. And then Mr. Sekuru will ask some questions. And then we'll allow the party representatives to ask each other questions. I think that will be an interesting part before we come to you. The rule still says the same, 90 seconds maximum for the response. If you can answer in a shorter period than that, then it shouldn't be a problem. Now, I just want to give, I'm going to ask each party representative one question, and then Mr. Sekuru will also ask them one question. When I was jotting down my questions, I looked at the broad areas, which are obviously of relevance, the same kind of areas that you'll find in almost every party's manifesto, and that will feature in every debate. But I've tried to simplify the question as much as possible, so that it's easy to understand, easy to respond to, and easy then to digest for our audience in attendance and for those listening and watching. Because otherwise, sometimes politics can become a bit too philosophical, or these discussions rather, too technical, too much of detail, and the core message is lost. So starting with Maggie Govender of the ANC, I'm going to ask a question in the category of governance. And for obvious reasons, as the governing party, the ruling party, for 30 years now. Your party, Maggie, has been in power nationally for 30 years now.
We can accept,
And there's a lot that the ANC
many
has
times the
achieved.
ANC doesn't get
And I think
proportionate
we can
acknowledgement
accept
for what it has
that
achieved.
many
in the
times
last
the
30 years.
ANC doesn't get proportionate
I think
acknowledgement
those accept
for what it has achieved in the last 30 years.
time to totally
I think we should also accept that 30 years is not long enough a time to totally overcome the legacy of colonialism and apartheid.
many
That said,
missed chances,
there has been, by the ANC's own admission,
squandered chances,
many missed chances
resulted in a South African
and
today
multitudes
considered one of the
of
most
squandered chances,
world.
which has resulted in a South Africa today that's considered one of the most unequal societies in the world,
We're thinking
one of the most dangerous societies in the world, where things are literally collapsing around us. I mean, I come from lands in Johannesburg. We used to wait for holidays to come to the Durban beachfront. Now, all the Joburgers are sitting in Cape Town for obvious reasons. So my question very simply, Maggie, is this. Why should the electorate give the ANC a seventh chance? What is it that you're promising this time that you can actually deliver on? Because you've been promising in the last 30 years, and there's much that you haven't delivered on.
Thank you for that. Well, firstly, I think as the ANC, we must honor that we have made many mistakes, and we're not hiding from that, and we're not denying that. But having said that, we believe that there is no point in living in the past, but rather we need to look to the future and how we can make the future a better one for all of us. So as the ANC, this is what our manifesto is reflecting. We're looking at growing an economy. Already the president has been able to secure over 1.3 trillion in terms of investment in our country. And as people know, investment is what will create jobs, will improve the country, etc. We acknowledge that our infrastructure has been severely damaged through the lack of maintenance as well as usage, because most of our roads and other things were not made for post-apartheid. They were made for a few during apartheid. So in terms of that, we are on an infrastructure development in the creation of jobs. We believe in skilling our people. So you'll see that in our manifesto, we're saying that we're going to invest in people, because we find that although we have many people who have access to free tertiary education, many of them are not studying for the things that the country requires. Also, that many of them believe that the only form of tertiary education is university, when in fact you can do vocation as well.
Thank you. Now, I must tell you, Dr. Kika and I have crossed paths on many a political debate over the last couple of years, on radio, on television, here in KZN. So when he walked in this evening, he said, "What are you going to ask me?" So I said, simple questions as always. Doc, without exaggeration, I got the easiest question for you tonight. And you would have seen this coming all the way from Newcastle. It's in the category of foreign policy and international relations.
Let's go for it.
Look, Doc, I know there's a lot that the DA can say about its policy when it comes to Palestine, right? We're not for this, we're for that, two-state solution, we are being misrepresented, people are misunderstanding. Let's park all of that one side. Two simple words. Not you, not Imran Kika. Why is it so difficult for your senior leadership, the Helen Zillers, the John Steenhuisens, to say two things, just two simple things? Why is it difficult for them to say that Israel is an apartheid state? And why is it difficult for them to say Thank you. And why is it difficult for them to say that Israel is guilty of genocide? Let's leave the whole... I'm sure you knew this question had to come. And let's leave the whole story one side about the DA's policy on Palestine, because we'll spend the whole night arguing to and fro. These two words, why can't we find it regularly in the vocabulary of the top leadership of the DA, like we find it in the top leadership of the ANC, the EFF, and other parties?
Well, first of all, the ANC says a lot. But
Speak closer to the mic, yeah.
Here's a man that moved a motion in the National Assembly,
right,
and their cabinet overturned it. So, there's a lot of hypocrisy here. So I don't think you should be talking about the ANC and asking me why the ANC is saying something and we are not saying
Let him
something.
speak. Let him speak. Let him speak. Let him speak.
So.
Thank you. Thank
so-
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Remember what I said up front, Doc. Let's go back to the DA. Genocide,
Yeah,
apartheid state.
I'm coming to that. I cannot answer for why the leadership don't say something.
Leave the party.
But you're representing the party.
And I will tell you.
Allow me to speak. Thank you. Allow me to check.
I will tell you what the party says.
Okay.
And the party says, and I'm reading it from here, I'm not going to waffle along. The party says that the Democratic Alliance stands in solidarity with both Palestinians and Israelis who seek a two-state solution. The DA stands against radicalism and violence. We reject any sentiment that where one side seeks the annihilation of the other side. We embrace rationality based on peaceful coexistence for both a secure Israel
Silence.
and a free Palestine. We embrace the right of both Palestinians and Israelis to statehood and sovereignty. Therefore, a free, independent, unoccupied, and safe Palestine alongside a safe, independent Israel. That is the official position of the party.
So there's no genocide and apartheid.
So-
Quiet. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
John Steenhuisen has answered the question.
Thank you.
On a
People,
public
we're not going to be
forum-
able to have a constructive discussion.
John Steenhuisen has answered the question of genocide on a public forum when he was asked this question. He said that the question of the genocide is placed in the right place. It is at the ICJ.
So he's not willing to call it
And
genocide.
they are the
Okay.
ones that
Time.
will make the determination, and therefore we will abide by that as a
Thank you.
party that adheres to international law.
Thank you. Let me again just tell the audience, right? Let the person speak, whoever it may be. Even if you don't want to vote for them, you'll be more convinced why you shouldn't vote for them if you don't agree with the answer. But let them answer. There's no point in not being able to hear the answer or kind of drowning out anyone's voice. I'm not saying only with the DA, any party, because then the listeners can't hear what they're saying and the viewers can't hear what they're saying. We move on to the EFF. So I've asked the ANC with regards governance, the DA with regards international relations or foreign policy. The EFF. We're just getting started, Doc. A simple question, Mr. Mervyn Govender. If the EFF were to win these elections and if Julius Malema was to become the president, what is his and the party's plan to attract foreign investment?
The issue of foreign direct investment would
Just
obviously...
closer to the mic.
Sorry. The issue of foreign direct investment would lie in socialist democratic countries like Russia, etc., China, and obviously those countries have built up capacity in terms of the industrial revolution. So we would harness all those the various types of industries would now flow in South Africa. So the other issue is that currently in South Africa, we've lost the textile industry. We no longer manufacture textile, and that was a bread and butter industry to a majority of the working class citizens. And we want to reintroduce the textile and clothing industry back into South Africa as a port of entry into other countries and even overseas. So the issue is that the ANC government, under the leadership of the previous 10 years, have actually destroyed the textile industry. And that is one of the industries that actually flourished. So I'll just tap on that as part of FDI. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the AM4C. So we've done governance, we've done foreign affairs, we've done economy. One thing that perhaps is not often spoken about in political discussions is morality and values. You know, there's a lot of things. There's crime, there's corruption, there's inefficiency, there's lack of service delivery, there's blaming political leaders. But political leaders don't emerge out of a vacuum. They come from within our communities. They come from within our societies. So my question to Manzoor is that what is your vision and your plan as a party for moral regeneration to bring back values, old-fashioned values and morals in the South African society?
Yes, and shukran for that. I think the Allied Movement for Change is very, very simple, first of all. And that is that we need to go back to our roots, to religion, to culture, to tradition. That's the first thing. But we believe that it needs to start at grassroots level, and that's it, at schools. You're never going to deal with the issue of morals and values, not with the current levels of politics or politicians you have in the country, and not also with the quality of education that you have. The issue of the high number of taverns and shebeens, the number of the promotion, particularly by the West, on things like LGBTIQ, abortions, matters of that nature. You're talking about discipline. You're talking about the dysfunctional state of the society in which we live in currently, where last year 91,000 children gave birth to children. So we believe the only way you can bring back the moral society that we need to live in is to address, very importantly, from a grassroots level, what is the contributing factors to why we are where we are? What have we done in the last 30 years that's taking us in a decline country? So we believe we need to start from the grassroots level. Let's inculcate those values and morals in the children starting at school. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give in the IFP. What's your party's plan when it comes to climate change and environmental sustainability?
I think the question that you're asking is very, very pertinent to the country that we live in. When it comes to climate change, we have been very vocal on it in terms of how we will approach it, what are the steps that we will take to ensure that we protect the environment. Now, the first thing is the use of fossil fuels. Now, we know that fossil fuels are the biggest contributor towards the global exchange that we are seeing in terms of damage to the environment and to the ozone. And as IFP, we are saying that what we need to do is to ensure that we move away from fossil fuels, ensure that we are using alternate energy so that we do not damage the environment anymore. In terms of the natural environment, we have always advocated for the protection of not only the flora and fauna, but also the wildlife, that our country is so rich that people come from all over the world to see the big five, to see animals in the natural environment. And that is what we want to always protect. And we've been very vocal and at the forefront of the canned lion issue and the protection of rhinos. We've attended many seminars on this, and we have plans that will ensure that we protect the natural environment as well as protect the animals in our country. Thank you.
Mr. Ahmed Parak of Action SA. Today, amidst much fanfare, the President signed the NHI bill. What's your party's view on that bill? And if you disagree with it, what alternate plan do you have for adequate health care for all in South Africa?
As far as we are concerned, the legislation came before Parliament today. It will never work in South Africa. That's number one. Secondly, our policy is very, very simple. Firstly, you need to get our infrastructure in all the hospitals right from the beginning. That's where our problems is, in the hospitals and all the clinics. And that's where our infrastructure is broken completely. And that's what we are saying. Let's fix that up. Then you'll be able to use those hospitals, because at the moment you don't even have hospital beds in most of the government hospitals. Besides one or two hospitals that is functioning properly, the rest of them is all broken. So now we need to get in. When we get in there, first and foremost, we will need to start putting our hospital, put the infrastructure right in terms of our hospitals, and that's when we'll be able to serve the community.
Thank you. And lastly, the Sun Party's Rashid Gatta. If you were to be elected president, what would you do about water and lights? Because that affects everyone, everywhere, almost all the time.
I think the Sun Party is a great metaphor when it comes to lights, because the solar energy provides the light that is needed in this country. I think we would make sure that every household has solar energy so that they can become less dependent on the grid. Through solar energy, this country is blessed with a great amount of sunlight. When it comes to water, wherever we've been on the campaign trail, everybody has been seeking for one thing, and that is boreholes. So if we can drill as many boreholes in as many areas as possible, it will also release pressure on the water grid. We will also make sure that there's JoJo tanks installed so that it can store the surplus water, so that everyday South Africans living in their homes can be less dependent on the current municipal services, which have totally collapsed, and allow us to rebuild it. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to say thank you to all the party representatives for their answers to that round of questions. I'll hand over now to Mr. Yunus Sekoor, the CEO of Al Ansar, and he will be posing a question to each party representative.
Thank you, Maulana Suleiman Rawat. I think you mentioned to me you'll ask the difficult questions and I must go for the easy ones. Okay, yes, I think so far so good. Panelists are disciplined, adhere to their times, and the audience has been very disciplined as well. So we're quite pleased about it. They'll have the opportunity to ask the question shortly. My question to the ANC is, the ANC has faced significant criticism for issues of corruption and mismanagement in government sectors. In 2019, the President mentioned radical economic transformation will deal with transformation of the SA economy, and that seemed to have failed. Your President has recently indicated that for 2024, he's introducing the renewal agenda. Perhaps you need to unpack that. How does your party plan to rebuild public trust and ensure accountability in your governance moving forward?
So you'll just take time for each candidate.
Firstly, in order to rebuild trust, we want South Africans to know that we are not sitting with our hands folded. We are taking action within the organization, that's within the ANC, as well as at the level of government and other spheres against those who have done wrong. We cannot deny, and the state capture report has very, very clearly identified a huge amount of wrongdoing, both in the public and the private sector. So in terms of the public sector, Eskom, for example, has over 140 cases where people have been charged. There have been large amounts of money that have been recovered by the Special Investigations Unit, which our government established. There have been many arrests made by the Hawks. We established the Hawks. The National Prosecution Authority has been given more teeth. There's going to be a special arm set up to support it in its preparation of cases and prosecution of cases. What we found is that in terms of the state-owned enterprises, there's been an amount of 14.7 billion, right, that was contracted incorrectly. Amounts have been recouped. SAA has been able to recover 24 million from service providers. Remember, SAA was our national airline.
Time.
It is now successful.
Thank you. Thank you, Maggie. To my colleague, Dr. Imran Kika,
Silence, thank you.
Democratic Alliance. I'm not going to ask you anything on Palestine.
I think we're done with it.
You're done with it. But maybe it'll come back from the public. The DA has often been criticized for his approach to racial and economic inequality that's prevalent throughout the country. And very often, your president indulges in playing the blame game. How will your party address these systematic issues, specifically within the diverse context of South Africa?
So I think it's very pertinent that the Democratic Alliance has a social justice policy to redress those things that are still persistent related to the color of your skin, some of which comes from the past. Very interesting, you will find that very recently, and Maggie will know this, Les will know this from the legislature, the ANC railroaded through a piece of legislation called the Preferential Procurement Bill. They are trying to legislate that you should get procurement, or procurement should be sourced from you based on the color of your skin. So they are still trying to legislate what the Constitution has deemed illegal and unconstitutional from the past. Also, I think the metric that should be used to determine how the country is redressed shouldn't be race-based. Race-based policies have not worked for 30 years. And what should be the metric is rather change it to something related to poverty, for example, where the majority anyway are Black South Africans. And the reality is that in that process, the main idea is to achieve or work towards what we would call the Sustainable Development Goals.
Time. Okay. Thank you, Imran. I think you covered your comments. To the EFF, Mervyn Govender. Mervyn, given your confrontational and often controversial political style of the EFF, you know your leader walks out of every SOPA, how do you ensure that your methods do not alienate potential allies and voters who might be cautious about your approach to politics?
The EFF practices feminism and Leninism and also Marxism. So in the theory and the practice of those, you got to be assertive. You cannot be in governance for 30 years and just lie back. I think the president, with all his scandals, he has still not accounted for all his scandals. So what do people on the ground do? Do they just sit back and wait when no answers are given in terms of pala pala? The systemic attack on the president's office shows firstly that people have lost respect for the president of the country. And the next thing is that, is this not what the revolution calls for currently, that we need to be more assertive? And being more assertive will give you more accountability. So the issue currently is that I feel that the EFF is in a position to govern, they're ready to govern, and we cannot exclude the majority that daily cannot have the questions answered. There's deep levels of poverty and rooted corruption in the governing party. And I think if there's no forceful nature of somewhat from the EFF, you would just have an unaccountable government. Because in parliament, nobody ever, apart from the EFF, keeps the government and the ruling party to account. Thank you.
Thank you, Mervyn. To Ahmed Mansoor. Ahmed, as a relatively new party, I'm not saying you're a new individual, you've been in parliament with the NFP for quite a while. AM4C has promised change and innovation in governance. However, critics argue that your party lacks the experience to effectively manage large-scale administrative tasks. How do you respond to these concerns?
Well, I think firstly, let me say that I think having been there for 10 years, knowing exactly where the weaknesses are and shortcomings, and more importantly, what the solutions are, and that's what makes our task a lot easier. And I'll give you one good example if you want to talk about governance. Something that not a single political party in parliament wants to support. And that is the separation of administration from politics. We have said, in order to stop the levels of corruption so that we can have governance at a very high level and high moral values, what did we say?
Ahmed, can you talk on the mic?
What did we say in terms of that? Ensure that no politician or political party will have anything to do with procurement, right from the local level right to the top. And no politician or political party must have anything to do with employing or appointing anybody, any office bearers. Let that be the responsibility of independent bodies who have the expertise and the skills to do that. That's the first thing. So if you do that, you will identify the right kind of people that are fit for purpose. Right now, all political parties, wherever they govern, only appoint people from their own political parties. And all politicians, wherever they're governing, are responsible by employing their own people to ensure that their own people get this procurement and tenders, losing 40%,
Time,
which is
Ahmad.
500 billion rand a year.
Thank you, Ahmad. Time. Let's govern the IFP. The IFP has a strong regional presence in KwaZulu-Natal, but has been critiqued for not expanding its influence or modernizing its policies, and subsequently declining support, not only in KZN, but throughout the country. If you look at the percentages, you've dropped drastically. What new initiatives is your party introducing to appeal to a broader, younger demographic? Because that's where your voter lies.
I think first thing I need to correct the perception that our voter base has been dropping. If one looks at the by-elections that we've been winning over the past 2 years, we've been winning by-elections all across the province. If you look at the number of municipalities that we now control, in 2015, we only controlled 2 municipalities. Now we are controlling 25. So that is growth. And we are not only big here in KZN. Many people don't know that we have support in Mpumalanga, we have support in Soweto, we have support in the Western Cape. So this time around, for the first time, we are campaigning in every province across the country. And we have been to the Free State, where we were surprised that we had such a large following of people that we had to go twice to the Free State to actually campaign, because the people asked us to come back there. So we have been campaigning all over. And if you're talking about a new level of campaigning, one would have seen the new strategies that we are using. You know, that helicopter that has been flying around the country. Tomorrow it's going to be in the Western Cape with a massive banner, advertising the IFP. So we've been using new strategies, and people have actually welcomed that, and we find that the youth are really looking to the IFP right now, and we have a lot of youth support, and you'll see that the trajectory of the IFP is growing. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now to Ahmed Parak, Action SA. Action SA has positioned itself as a party of action, yet there are concerns about your party's concrete policy framework. Can you provide specific examples of actionable plans that your party has prepared for South Africa?
We have a policy, an open door policy, and what we have put together in our manifesto to what we will be able to get into government, and to, the president, when he ran the city of Gauteng from 2016, you'll see the difference when he was with the DA, when he was the president, what he has done. So when we get into power here, we will clean out the bad elements that what we are losing money on. If you take the ruling party, they are even tapping into the finance minister have already indicated he's going to tap into 150 billion into the gold and the forex reserves. The debt in the country, in South Africa at the moment, is 5.1 trillion. So if you take all these things into account, you need rulers that will be able to change South Africa and fix South Africa, and that's what we are in for.
Thank you, Ahmed. Okay, the last of questions is to Rashid of the Sun Party. When Maulana asked you, how will you deal with load shedding, I thought you say you would throw light to the darkness in South Africa through your son. But you covered it in the solar panels issue. The Sun Party has advocated for radical social reforms. It's a very strong and high word. But critics argue that your economic policies could defer investment in KwaZulu-Natal. How do you reconcile your socialist agenda with the need to attract economic growth and maintain fiscal stability in South Africa?
Success is not a secret. The only way that this country can come out of this quagmire is through economic reform. I have been privileged enough to be traveling throughout the world, especially China, where they have achieved economic growth in 25 years, which has taken Europe 200 years to do. Our raw materials are being exported to this country that industrialized themselves and became a very rich country. In South Africa, we are very fortunate that we are well endowed with the resource. The mineral wealth of the country belongs to all who live in it, and its exploitation should benefit everyone. But at the moment, a narrow band of politically connected individuals and big companies are benefiting at the expense of the masses. And we aim, through our structural reform program, within the first 100 days of us getting into office, to be able to effect those reforms in the form of genuine transformation of ownership, beneficiation incentives where we penalize export of raw materials and incentivize export of the finished product. South Africa is well positioned in the center of the world, where we have special trade agreements like AGOA and the EU agreement.
Thank you, Rashid. Time. I will just ask Molana to come in here and explain the questions between the panelists. Molana?
Yeah, so the rationale behind this particular round is that I've asked a set of questions, Mr. Sekur has asked a set of questions. You probably all disagreed with each other's answers on those questions, or disagreed with much of it. So you have an opportunity now to ask a question to a fellow party representative that's seated here today. So how it's going to work is we'll start in reverse order. We'll ask Rashid first. You've got 30 seconds to ask your question, and whoever you ask your question to from the other party representatives has 60 seconds to respond. So it's a little bit quick. It can be anything. You can ask them anything, or you can ask them in relation to what they've said already in terms of their opening statements and the 2 rounds of questions that we have already. If you're ready, Rashid, we'll start with you. If you want some more time, I can come back to you.
No, I'm ready.
Okay. Who's your question to?
To the ANC.
Okay. Right. 30 seconds, Rashid.
Are you prepared as the ANC to share into a government of national unity, since you have not been able to achieve the success in this country in the 30 years that you've been allowed to govern?
ANC, what we are looking at is working together with other parties, civil society and business. However, we want to make no bones about it. We want to win a decisive majority. We are not talking about coalitions. Everyone is coming to us and saying coalition, coalition. Everybody is talking about us and saying coalition. But as the ANC, we are clear. We want to win a decisive majority. Our work on the ground shows us that we will get that majority, regardless of what the doomsayers say.
Thank you. I thought I heard Dr. Kika speaking to you in between. There's something about coalitions between DA and ANC. On a lighter note, Ahmed Parak, your question is to?
To the ANC.
Oh. Okay.
The ANC is looting this country. We had now recently an invoice made out to from the Department of Park for 1.3 million. It was paid by the city, but yet the job did not take place. 320 million of solid waste scandal. Where's that money? ICC Women's League. 3.2 million. They used it for the ANC youth. They want the city to pay for it.
Time.
Thank you. And thanks for asking those questions. Firstly, we have made it clear that there is nobody above the law. We live in a country governed by a constitution. So whoever is guilty of wrongdoing has to face the court of law. You're talking about the solid waste tender that is in court. And it will follow the process of law. It's this ANC that ensured that we do have an independent judiciary. Our courts are independent and their decisions are final. The ANC does not interfere in that. We respect the decisions. Within the ANC, we are taking measures against our own members to ensure that whoever is guilty of wrongdoing goes before our Integrity Commission. They have to answer and necessary action is taken. Even those who consider themselves to be leaders are not above that. So as far as the ANC is concerned, wherever there is wrongdoing, and charges can be laid against those people with the necessary evidence, they will be followed up. The municipality spokesperson did say that there's an investigation into the matter that was referred to.
Maggie, if I may, for purposes of clarity, right? We understand the judiciary is independent, and that can play out for as long as Zuma's cases are playing out, right? But those implicated in the Zondo Commission of Inquiry still sit in your president's cabinet, and the Integrity Commission was overruled by the SG's office when the lists were finalized leading into this election. Can you respond quickly to that?
Yes, because those people have not been charged. We are saying as the ANC that when they are charged and they are convicted, they will be removed from office. But right now,
That could take 20 years.
it could take 20 years, but we live in a country where there is a constitution. All of us are governed by the constitution.
Yeah, I think the problem is that if you take, for example, Ace Magashule, he's charged but not yet convicted, but he had to step down as Secretary General. But anyway, Les Govender, your question is too?
Yeah, I think I'll break the chain here, and I will ask the question to the EFF. You know, considering that socialist policies have failed across the world, what makes you think that if you are in power, that you can bring communist and socialist ideology into a country that is a democratic state and expect it to work? What are your plans?
First and foremost, socialist democracies have not failed. Sweden is one of them. Poland is one of them. China has produced the most amount of millionaires. So I don't know where this fallacy of socialism failing. Obviously, in other corrupt countries, socialism has failed. There's huge amounts of minerals, etc. But in this stance, if you look at the manifesto and how we plan to address the issue of socialism and build socialism in this country, you can actually come into the country. We give you 25 years, you can run your industry, and then you hand it over back to the government. I think that's a fair deal. You can make enough of profit, and you can leave, and then you hand it back to the state.
Just for further clarity, I think many would say the examples you cited of those countries, many don't consider them to be democracies. So I think that the question then is, how do you marry the socialist, Leninist, Marxist ideology, which is touted by your leadership, and at the same time keep it within the parameters of a proper democracy?
I think in every democracy, the working class is always the class that actually ensured that roads are built, infrastructure is built, and all of that, and it allows the tills to turn around in terms of revenue, taxes, etc. So if you have a working class that is working so hard, why should they be ignored? The other issue is, has capitalism prevailed in the country? No, it has not. You've seen greed, corruption, and malfeasance. Now, obviously, the ANC is pro-capitalism, the way they control the economy, etc.
Manzoor, your question is too?
Right, let me also break it. Mine is to the DA. Could you tell us what is your relationship with the IFP, other than both of them being funded by the Zionists? In that, you have never one single day condemned the IFP for the high levels of corruption in KwaZulu-Natal. Right now, with 322 million being written off in unlawful, unauthorized, irregular expenditure, amongst many others.
Imran?
Maybe the Honorable Manzoor doesn't pay attention to the DA statements that are released to the municipalities where we co-govern. We also have a service delivery pact and agreement with the IFP that very clearly lays out the relationship between the IFP and the DA. We're happy to share this with him so that he can see the steps that we take in a very methodic manner in the relationship that we have. That pact is designed in such a manner that its only intention is to ensure that the IFP, where we co-govern with them, is held accountable.
Zionist funding?
I can. You asking the question?
No, he asked the question.
He
about
didn't
this.
answer. He didn't ask. He made a comment.
Okay. Do you want to respond to that comment? Do you want to respond to that comment?
Well, last week, let me put it to you this way: we received funding from various sources. Last week, a Muslim businessman donated 25,000 rand. I won't mention his name. I'll mention another Muslim man who is mentioned. So we receive funding from various sources. Our funding is declared in terms of the IEC's requirements and regulations. There, you can have a look at it. Whether you like it or not, those are our funds.
The majority of the funding comes from Zionist-leaning individuals and entities.
Well, it depends on your interpretation. I think the names are there, and we declare it for good reason.
Mervyn, your question is to? ANC.
Maggie, you actually headed a department called Public Works and Human Settlement. Under your tenure as the MEC, there was massive corruption in your department, firstly. The second thing is that the SRU report sat on the run-up to the proclamation sat on Jacob Zuma's desk for years, until...
Time.
So I just want to find out, why is the SRU report on Phoenix housing corruption that goes into the billions not being released by your president, who is also a criminal in the Phala Phala?
Thank you.
I think we must be living on different planets. During my tenure as MEC for Human Settlements and Public Works, we were actually very, very known to be fighting corruption. We were the first department which had a company blacklisted for corrupt practices. We were the first, it was the first time that a service provider went to court and was charged, AC Industrial, and was charged with corruption. Those were the first. So I don't know where you were living, but clearly you were not aware of it at all, right? Secondly, if it's an attack on my integrity, I chair SCOPA, and SCOPA is known to go against anybody who contravenes and misuses the public purse. And I represent the ANC, and this is what the ANC in its renewal process is fighting very strongly for. If you're talking about an SIU report, I would suggest that you take that up through the correct channels, because the SIU doesn't report to me, it doesn't report to the province, it reports to the president. And the president has a hotline which you are welcome to use.
Don't lie about the hotline.
Dr. Imran Kike, your question is to? Let's have silence. Let's have silence. Thank you.
So before I ask my question, and it's like this. My apologies. Shoutless. My question will be directed. If you don't allow me format that I want to the EFF.
Okay.
But I will phrase it in such a manner that it includes other political parties. And if anybody wants to pick up the baton, then they can respond.
All right, so let's do this way. Ask your question to the When we take questions from the floor and come back to the other panelists, if they want to respond to your question, they can do so.
So my point is this, that in KZN, the ANC is finished. The ANC could have achieved so much more if they didn't steal. They've deployed cadres, they've destroyed the economy, and it's, the way they run government is just like rearranging the deck chairs. Now, the problem is that there are many small pop-up parties, some of which, after they get elected, all I haven't asked the question, but
just make it quick.
So they all support the ANC.
Yeah.
So to the EFF, what I want to know from them is that if the ANC needs a partner in a coalition, like they are doing in Denauze, Koruleni, and Johannesburg, will they work with them in a doomsday coalition?
All right, Mervyn?
Firstly, I'm not in a capacity to answer that question. I've just been deployed to, after the elections, that would be most befitting to answer that question. And we're still in the run-up, and I think we will come number one. So I don't think there will be a doomsday coalition.
But fundamentally, you're not opposed to being in coalition with the ANC. Like some parties, for example, Action SA, Mr. Mashaba has said, in 300 years, I won't be in coalition with the ANC. You don't have such position.
Sir, I think the past 30 years has ruined our country. We've seen the ruins. Sewer flowing on the streets, water security, load shedding, etc. I think the last option would, and as we're saying, we're going for an outright win here. So there's no such thing as a doomsday coalition, as the DA emphasizes on.
Maggie, your question is to?
Mine is to the DA. And my question is this. You signed with a lot of fanfare and glory a moonshot pact. It's coming apart at the seams. Just a few days ago, you were fighting with the IFP and the Zululand municipality. Action SA is red because your leader has said you will consider a coalition with the ANC. We didn't ask you for a coalition, but your leader wants one with us. So tell me about this moonshot pact. How good is it? And is it worth the paper that you have signed it on?
Imran?
Very simply put, the multi-party charter is holding strong despite the rumors. Thank you.
Maggie made a comment there, Imran, which I think will be good for you to clarify. Is the DA interested in a coalition with the ANC as being rumored and speculated?
Your leader said it.
Maybe the Action SA gave themselves a 300-year timeline. So we don't know what will happen after 1 year. But certainly not.
But if the numbers fall in such a way, and this is the theory going around, that funders of the DA are putting pressure on the leadership to say that rather than an ANC, EFF coalition, which we have labeled as a doomsday coalition, rather let it be an ANC, DA coalition. You saying that'll never happen?
Write it on that wall. Never.
Okay.
We don't want you either.
All right, thank you. Sometimes they say never say never. Never. We can't make you eat your topi if that coalition happens, but we'll make you eat some humble pie. We now come to a part where
must work both ways.
Okay. All right, we're going to give an opportunity to our attendees here, and those who are listening and watching can do so via the WhatsApp number. Because of the live visuals, right, you'll have to queue up whoever wants to ask questions, because we can't move the cameras in all different directions. So you can queue up with your backs facing that camera and facing me, and then we'll give you a chance each to ask a question or make a comment, but 60 seconds, right? 60 seconds. So we'll try and give. Yeah, we'll do a few at a time. I'll ask the party representatives to take notes, right? So then it becomes easier. So can we just line up there? So then we do it in sequence. I may not do everybody at one shot, but we'll try and do a few at a time. Please, no Juma bayans, no long sermons. The roving mic, I'm not sure where happened. He's got it. Okay, when you take the mic, just identify yourself. And if you're asking a question to somebody specific, then mention who you're asking a question to, and keep it at 60 seconds. Anissa will keep time. We start with Imran Subrati. Can we have silence? Thank you. Let's hear our attendees.
Thank you. My name is Imran Subrati, the Secretary General of United for Palestine. My question is directed to the Democratic Alliance. As you may see on my left arm is the South African flag, which is very sacrosanct. It's a symbol of unity. It is the ultimate symbol of our patriotism as South Africa. My question to you, and in my left arm, close to my heart, is the flag of Palestine. To the DA, do you condemn your party is burning the South African flag as a cheap and arrogant tactic, and that this is treasonous? Do you apologize on behalf of your party to us South Africans for this insane and insulting act? And will you do it again? Thank you. Thank you.
Maulana, you want us to-
No, we'll take a few questions then. Silence, thank you. Next,
Good evening, everybody. My name is Councillor Ramona McKenzie. My question is directed to two of the leaders. One is Dr. Imran Kika. What is your position on the NHI bill and the Bella bill? And my second question would be directed to the ANC. Why has it taken you 30 years to hold people accountable? Why is there constant musical chairs with leadership on the top? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I think for me, the first thing I would like to touch on is the fact that we all know what's happening in Israel, but I'd like to start off by saying that I do not live in Israel, I do not live in Palestine, I live in Durban, South Africa. The issues that are closest to me are happening here. So I understand the question you might pose about what is happening on an international scale, but I think I found it a little bit biased because I think this election is about South Africans. What are we doing about the kids who are being raped? What are we doing about the poverty that's happening in South Africa and the huge levels of unemployment happening in our country at this very moment? I've seen a lot of people who put up stickers about free Palestine and stuff like that. That's fine, that is your right. But we also need to ask, what are we doing about us as South Africans? My question is then for Dr. Kika. Dr. Kika, what are the DA's plans to, number one, fight crime, which is so high in South Africa? We're not even sure if we're safe when we leave here. And then secondly, what is the DA doing to improve the level of education in our country? Thank you.
Thank you.
I suggest you identify yourself and then you can ask the question.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's Asghar Khan, the KZN leader of Al-Jama. I think all the panelists have spoken, but a very fundamental issue has been left out, and which the moderator, Mr. Sakur, has brought up, is the issue of local government. None of you have spoken on local government reforms. What are the plans for local government reforms? I think to the audience and the listeners at home, one must be aware of what the parties are offering. Some parties are talking of drilling boreholes, but there's no address of the fundamental and key issue, which is the Constitution. The Constitution makes reference to access to water, whereas we need to change that constitution, because access to water means water 200 meters away from your house. We need to change the constitution to ensure that there's a right to clean water. And there's only one party that's offering that. Many parties have sat here today and they made noise like thunder. And some of their supporters, with all due respect, made more noise. But there's nothing fruitful. Thunder doesn't make crops grow. It's the rain that makes crops grow. Time.
Thank you.
We'll take one more, then we'll come to the responses.
Thank you. In the last few political debates and discussions I attended, the ANC was represented in most of the instances by women. One was actually a very young woman representing youth. Sadly, I have not seen the same level of representation and empowerment by other parties of women and youth in leadership roles. It seems that politics still remain the domain of the patriarchal male, while women and youth constitute the majority of voters are sidelined. I'd like to know from the other parties, what has your party done and will do to empower our women and youth into leadership positions? And to Comrade Maggie, I'd like to say thank you very much for nurturing us as women and bringing us up as strong leaders to make a difference in our communities.
Thank you. We just hold it there for a minute. One minute, sir. We're just going to take responses. We'll come back to you. So there were two questions there that were for all the panelists, right? I'll ask you to make a note of it when we come to you a little later. The one was about local government reforms from Al Jamaa, and the other one was about women and youth representation. Maggie, I think there was just one question to you, and that was about 30 years to hold people accountable.
Okay. In terms of the 30 years to hold people accountable, as I said, people are being held accountable. There are cases in court. We do have a constitution in this country. And I'd like you to just remember, every one of us, if you were arrested, would you want to be judged by a kangaroo court or through a decent court of law? I would say decent court of law. That's what our constitution provides for. That's what we fought for. So we must respect that and expect that when the process is done and the judiciary decides, that is it. I think it would be unreasonable, particularly for councillors, to ask that question, because you are a local government representative. You should be following the constitution and law as well.
So Imran, I'm just trying to make sure I don't miss anything. There was a question about the burning the South African flag, NHI, the Bella Bill, as well as crime and education.
They're all the hard questions. And I think if we solve these,
Just speak into the mic.
I think if we solve these, and I think we can, because whilst some political parties just stand up and present their manifestos, and some don't work, where we govern, we've shown we can actually improve all of these. So first, regarding the burning of the flag, I think people must understand what is metaphoric and what is symbolic. The flag, the advert that was depicted was burnt. It was restored at the end. It was metaphoric and symbolic of what is happening in South Africa. It's simple. I mean, anybody who watched the ad, I don't know if the gentleman watched it, but if you watch the ad, it's very simple what happened. You know, what's terrible is that somebody actually went and burned down the legislative seat of our country, burned down the national parliament with the flag hoisted right on top. Nobody says anything about that. That's going to cost us millions of rands, you know, to billions of rands to rebuild the flag. Nobody talks about that because it suits them.
Okay, just move on to the other ones.
So we didn't burn the flag. It's as simple as that. It's a symbolic burning.
Asked and answered. Let's move on.
Asked and answered. Right. I think the best way to ensure that the NHI and both the NHI and Bella Pearl do not take full effect is to make sure we vote the ANC out on the 29th of May. We can put a dead stop to this. Both these bills are terribly flawed. They will destroy the economy. They will destroy the country. They are unconstitutional in their absolute essence. And we are going to challenge both these right up to the Constitutional Court and spend every cent possible to make sure that these two
crime and education.
I've spoken about the Bella Bill to you. There was on crime. With regards to crime, very simply, I think we have a few 90 seconds. Prevention is better than cure. We offer hope. We advocate for a whole of society approach to crime. And very importantly, the Western Cape has been pushing for the devolution of policing. That means that we'll bring policing closer to the people, number one. Number two, it must ensure that the police are empowered and equipped. And lastly, it will ensure that there is greater oversight over the policing service.
Thank you.
Have I missed something?
No. So any of the other panelists want to respond to the local government reforms and the women and youth representation one? Les Governor, I see your hand.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to respond to the issue of women representation. In the IFP, we have a number of females who are councillors. We have a mayor who has won clean audit from the Auditor General. We have speakers who are in many municipalities who are female. We have deputy mayors who are female. So we are promoting females across the board.
Thank you. Manzoor?
Yes, let me start off on the issue of local. I think our colleague might be having a hearing problem. Because of course I did talk about local government, particularly on some of the measures we want to put so that there's better governance from there. And one of the ways is to stop the corruption and the looting and making sure there's capacitated people. But very importantly, Al Jamaa has been governing in Johannesburg, and it's an absolute mess. There's no doubt about it. So let us be honest about it, that you also in coalitions in Iteguini and many others. You understand? And you haven't performed at all. Umdoni municipality is no different. So let's talk about that. What we are saying here, yes, local government is the heartbeat of the delivery of services, there's no doubt. But where is the problem? The problem is twofold. You don't have the people that are capacitated with the ability to perform because of cadre deployment by all political parties where they govern. And more importantly, as a result of the high levels of corruption, where you are losing up to 400 or 500 billion in this country, 40% is being lost. Thank you.
Maggie?
Thank you.
In terms of local government reforms, the ANC's manifesto is very clear. We are saying that national and provincial governments must be given greater powers in order to intervene where municipalities are not able to perform the functions that they do. An example of this, and that has gone through, is the regulations around the provision of water, particularly in Iteguini. We've seen it where the National Department of Water and Sanitation has intervened to ensure that the provision of water is addressed. And also in the Iteguini municipality, although the budget is so contested, provision has been made for the funding of 2 aqueducts, which will ensure that there is a regular supply of water to people in the north and the south. The National Department has also made provision for the construction of dams, including the Nkomazi Dam and the upgrading of the Hazelmere Dam in KwaZulu-Natal. So those are set to address the water issues confronting our communities. And would they? Thank you.
I don't believe, a word that comes out of the MEC, sorry, the MEC, Member of Parliament or Legislature. The issue is that there have been, I think, 3 Auditor Generals that came through the Itequini municipality. And all the reports have proven that it's jamming. There was a Manasseh report. The city does not have finances. So I don't understand why Maggie Governor will sit here and lie to the entire public that they are actually succeeding in terms of local governance issues. So she must stop lying and obviously come up and tell us the truth as to whether the ANC would actually deliver in terms of the next 2 years while they finish their term in office.
Ahmed Barak and then Rashid.
From Maggie, she's talking about sanitation and water, and he's talking about the aqueducts in Tongat. The aqueducts were put now recently for 80 million and is not working. That's one. Secondly, Action SA, we are in court with the raw suit that is going into our river and the sea. Even we brought an application last week for the water. You're not getting water supply. Go to Verulam and you'll find for the last 8 years you don't get water. 8 years. How you go to Verulam, they put up a township, 13 houses, 70 million. How do you account for all that?
Rashid?
With regard to the local government reforms, I think that there's a difficulty because of the blame game. Local government will blame provincial will blame national. I think we need to establish a new policy where we have collaboration between the different spheres of government. And then when it comes to youth, I mean, it's a very important aspect because youth between the age of 18 to 39, they comprise 20 million of the 40 million eligible voters. They are 50% of the eligible voters, but they find themselves unemployed and not able to find jobs. So I think we should make it a policy for youth in companies to employ youth as 50% of their
Imran, very quickly about local government. You wanted to say
The bottom line in local government is accountability. It's as simple as that. We're all going to die one day, and we're all going to be answerable. You steal less, don't steal, you're able to deliver. It's as simple as that. Look at Umgeni municipality right here at your doorstep. Look at Umgeni local municipality right here. They took a broken municipality that was completely dysfunctional. The DA mayor there is in his 30s. He's a young man. Also the most diverse party in the country with regards to color, geographical location, and every other kind of diversity that you want. We run the best local governments in South Africa, and we are not saying this. Auditor General tells us this, all of government's markers tell us this, and we know how to get these things done. It's as simple as that. So we don't we don't want to dwell on the failures of the ANC. The others have all done that. We're just telling you that we'll do it better.
All right. Just before I go back to the questions on the floor, I'm going to ask Brother Faisal Suleiman to perhaps look through the WhatsApp questions so long and sift out those that touch on issues that hasn't been asked already or touched on already by our guest, so we avoid repetition. And on the issue of bias in terms of the Palestinian issue, as a South African, I struggle with that a little bit, and I'll tell you why. I mean, apart from the fact that Madiba said that we are not truly free until the Palestinians are free, we mustn't forget that if the international community had to take the attitude to South Africa in the days of apartheid, that that's their problem, we have our own problems to worry about, then perhaps we will still be in the clutches of apartheid. So morality does not know man-made boundaries. Justice does not know boundaries. That said, of course, we can't let a South African election be totally overwhelmed by a discussion on one issue. That's why if you look at the questions that both Mr. Sekur and I have asked, from the 14 questions that we asked, one was on Palestine. Of course, what others asked from the floor is their prerogative. So I don't think there was a kind of intentional bias to skew the discussion into what's happening in Palestine and give it priority over other very important issues here. But remember, there are core values that affect everything. Right? And justice is one of those core values. If you don't understand justice, you'll be corrupt. If you don't understand justice, you won't be able to deliver efficiently. So everything hinges on justice at the end of the day. The gentleman has been waiting very patiently. Sir, the floor is yours. We're going to do now 60 seconds to try and cover the remainder of those that have queued.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Sandy Lengema. My question is directed to the ANC. I just want to ask, why is the ANC every time if there are some posts from the municipality, they ask the membership fee or the membership card in order that they can employ you? Why are they doing that? And also I have the second question. First of all, we've been ruled by ANC for a long time. For I understand that it's been 30 years. They failed us. Then my question is to Dr. Imran. What is the rescue plan from the DA for unemployment? Let me check it. To fight poverty, water crisis, and electricity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Ahmed Gara. I've got two questions for our colleague from the ANC. Simple logic dictates that something built for a few cannot service the many. It's taken you guys 30 years to figure that out. How can you ask people to now vote you back into power if it takes you that long to figure out a simple problem? Secondly, you said wait for justice to run its course. The people that are suffering that don't have housing due to your people's corrupt tendencies and behavior are still suffering. So what do you have to say to them as they wait 10, 20, 30 years more for them to get houses? And to our colleague from the EFF, you mentioned countries like Russia and China who have massive human rights abuses in their labor laws, and then you want to use them as an example to bring the textile industry back. We can't compete because we don't want to go down the route of child labor. That's it from me.
Good evening. Assalamu alaikum. My question is to the DA.
Your name?
My name is Siddiq. Before I go on to the DA, I just want to Rashid and to Sheikh Imam, you guys are serious guys. I think you have a good chance and I hope the best for you guys. To Imran Kika here, the burning of the flag was very disappointing, right? It was not a point. As much as you speak, it was not a point. You can't really burn the flag down here after the freedom. So much was fought for it, as South Africans know. Second thing, on the Palestinian issue, I don't know how you sit there with a nice beard and talk. I'm talking about your conscience here. How do you go at night? Sleep at night, reading the Quran, go to the mosque, knowing that your party supports Israel, supports genocide. If this room was full with women and children of here, and Israel bombed this year with 200 dead, and you saying that if I stand to be corrected here, one man's freedom is another man's genocide, another man's freedom, right? Your party leader said it. How do you sit in that camp there? Have you thought about going to another camp? You become so famous. I know you're the chief whip of the DA and the KZN, right? But I'm asking, what conscience do you take? What does it take for a person like you to sit there and, and support Israel being a Muslim? Please, I want to know. Please, I really want to know that. I think we all want to know in South Africa. Every Muslim wants to know. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, Ms. Hassan Valodia. To the DA, IFB actually say, will you, as you sit here, repeat after me, I, the DA, the IFB, say, as leaders, condemn Israel for stealing land of Palestinian people and condemn Israel for the killing of innocent babies, children and women and innocent civilians, over 35,000 of them. You talk about a two-state solution. Have you been to Palestine? How can you encourage the theft of land of Palestinians, People still call a two-state solution when every few kilometers there is Israeli checkpoints. Whenever you enter, when Israelis are locked in a prison, and you call this equal. Palestinians are locked in.
Thank you.
One more question.
Okay.
You only attack IFP, you only attack ANC on corruption. You never attack corruption by your own Zionist group of parties. For example, City of Cape Town is top 5 corrupt municipalities in the country. IFP latest report, Zululand municipality, irregular expenses, 85 million to be written off.
Thank you. You got it.
Thank you. My name is Glenn Dubelele. Firstly, the organizers, can you please make sure that you include all the political parties? Because now we see others, they are very angry at us when we are clapping hands for our delegates. So please make sure that you include all of them. We hear ANC here today talking about owning up to mistakes. From 2009 till now, we have been hearing that statement. I'm not sure whether they think that we are on Tom and Jerry scenario thing. ANC, please stop with excuses and tell us you have a plan or not for the country, because the economy of the country is collapsing under your watch. That's for you, madam. And to Rashid Gata of San, the economy of the country is collapsing because of the ANC, and in Western Cape because of DA. Unemployment rate is continuing to rise. What is the economic recovery plan of SAN on the crisis South Africa is facing? Thank you.
My name is Azad Sidat. I represent the South African Communist Party Phoenix branch. I'm also a member of the African National Congress. My first question is directed to the Moonshot Pact. And my second question is directed to the Muslim parties in the frontier. First of all, it hurts me because the majority of freedom fighters, of martyrs who gave their lives for the struggle in this country were Muslim. Ahmad Timol, Mohsin Jinnah, Babla Saluji, Yusuf Akawaya, the list goes on. Ghulam Hafizi, Dr. Ghulam Hafizi, Krish Rabilal, Lenny Naidu. That's now, I'm talking about, these are Indian cadres who gave their lives for the struggle. Leave out the major African comrades who gave their lives for the struggle. Now, why would these parties, Johnny Come Lately parties, be counter-revolutionaries to oppose the African National Congress, to oppose the PAC, to oppose AZAPO, and to oppose the South African Communist Party, which are the parties that liberated us?
Thank you.
Second question is...
Thank you. No.
Second question is there a need for...
All right. Okay, silence.
Sorry, my second question is...
Silence, quickly.
My second question is there a need for other Muslim parties? We have Al Jamaa as one party. The Muslims are such a small community. Why do you still want to divide the vote?
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Good evening. My name is Maulana Hussain Khan and I represent Al Jamaa. Just want to clarify a statement made by our Imam Manzoor Sheikh that the mayor of Gauteng is running a system of very messed up. The point of correction there is that the mayor currently is Al Jamaa, but he's cleaning up the mess of the previous mayors that were in existence in Gauteng. So it's going to take him a mighty long time. The other question is very simple. Yes, of course, the Palestinian issue is a very serious, and I'm sure it is close to many hearts, if not all. This issue of the Palestinian call for freedom is running in extent for over 7 decades. My question is to the ANC. Had it not been for the crisis currently faced by the Palestinians, what other method would you have used for garnishing electioneering campaign? Because that is most of the time we see that is used. And I personally take offense to that because we have to concentrate about the situation in our country as well. Number 2, is whilst we are busy, the government is busy participating, and we give them due credit for that. But remember, South Africans, the ANC is getting the glory and name for taking the Israel to the ICJ. It's not the ANC, it's the South African citizens.
Thank you.
Mindful of that. And 2 is how much of money have the tax money been paid? 2, we've experienced many problems. Okay,
everybody's
just one second. Last question is that we faced 3 major crises: the looting, the COVID, as well as the flood. Did any hierarchy of the ANC come out in their masses to face the community and give them answers and solutions, as opposed to what they are using the Palestinian as a electioneering campaign? Did they come out to us? Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Good evening.
Silence.
Everybody.
Let's hear the brother.
This is Maggie Kaunda. What's stopping the ANC from bringing the scorpions back to Akan? What's stopping the ANC from bringing the scorpions back to do a damn good job? Thank you.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Aisha, and I'd like to say Jazakallah to Mr. Manzoor Sheikh from the AM4C for closing down the embassy. And I'd like to, with regards to the Palestinian issue, and I'd like to pose a question to the ANC: is that they are saying they are supporting the Palestinians? What have they done now that the IDF is down? Because I don't see any action happening. It has taken you guys 20 years to close down the embassy, but it's taken Mr. Manzoor Sheikh, I think, few days to have it done, to shut down. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Bandile Atebe. I only have 2 questions directly based to EFF and the ANC. Firstly, the thing that concerns me the most is when each and every time I hear an ANC representative, the only thing they say is that they have made a mistake. Now the question is, how long does a person get to make a mistake? You have had the chance for over 30 years, but yet every time an ANC member speaks, they say that we have made a mistake and we are working on fixing that mistake. Secondly, on the EFF, I would like to ask a question. If I'm just randomly walking down the street, should I be concerned when seeing EFF members walking together? Because I get to see that whenever you see EFF members together, you fear that, are they thinking of rioting? Are they thinking of destroying something? Because when you see EFF members, the way they deal with the things, sometimes it's unprofessional. So now I'm asking, if should everyone be concerned with the way they handle things?
Okay, thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. My name is S.A.K. Basha.
Let's have silence. Just say your name again.
Sayyid Abdul Qadir Basha. S.A.K. So, I have a comment first on when regards to the IFP. Mr. Governor said, in terms of alternative energy, the fossil fuels it has to stay, because I think we don't realize the system or the design of our power system. I mean, you can use as much solar as you want, and you're not going to do that. So, getting out, there was talks when President Zuma was in to get nuclear, which would have solved our problem. Unfortunately, again, we don't have people that are qualified, or giving us proper information in that regard, and also the water as well.
Question. Quickly,
the question on Mr. Kika. I lived in Cape Town for 10 years. In the 90s, and since then, I've been there last year. The DA looks after the privileged corporations, and none of the Crossroads has been like that for the last 30 years. It hasn't changed.
Thank you. The last question for comment.
Salams, greetings in peace. My name is Milo. Not coffee, not tea. Milo, not coffee, not tea. I want to be constructive. I'm taking a different approach. I want to be constructive, not destructive. There's only two E's that can change this country and has changed any country in the world. Post Germany, post-war, Japan, post-war. Education and entrepreneurship. Education starting from early childhood development, through in your morality and everything as well. Right? Schools must all have libraries, media centers, lab centers and laboratories, right? Not put latrines, not children crossing to bridges, right? ANC in 30 years, you failed us. So the point is that the third part, the varsity in NSFAS, there's a lot of issues with NSFAS. NSFAS got a lot of headaches. So many students come to us with so many headaches, right? And colleges, I think Kader Asmal, late Maroon Kader Asmal will be turning his grave, he closed the colleges. That's the last thing we should have done. We need more colleges. We need technical skills and entrepreneurship, small business development. We need more incentives. We need more driven. We need to see entrepreneurship at school level. So I want to be constructive. You got a budget of 2.1 trillion SARS got for you, right? Trillion. You need to our hard work income taxes. What are you going to do with the 2.1 trillion budget? What are you going to do with the 2.1 trillion budget?
Mr. Faisal, okay, there's a question there from Nazir Malik. Faisal, if there's any questions on the WhatsApp, Siraj will read it out. Okay. Are there many? Okay. Let's listen to Nazir first.
Maulana and Yunus, I think these debates are more an attack towards each party. When are we going to deal with the issues of today? Wherein the water and rates and lights bills of people are double. We've been out to, I think a politician first need to be a humanitarian before he becomes a politician. Then and only then will we have a successful political governance in this country. I've been to a school yesterday, Maulana, 580 children in a school without a drop of water. They have 3 pit holes for sanitation. And those, the stress that had me for the last 2 days, if a child has to fall into those pit holes, death is evident. I'm saying you have a problem, you don't have water in the north. Take temporary, short-term, medium-term, long-term solutions. Don't say it's gone 30 years and we're now trying to govern and make it better. Give at least some boreholes, like Rashid has said, or some tankers, and that we will be able to supply them some water, some relief at least. Let's talk solutions, not attack each other.
All right, Siraj, we'll come back to you in a bit, right? Rashid, there was a question very quickly on economic recovery for you. Let's try and keep it to about 30 seconds. Your response quickly.
2024 is a make or break year. The only way to create jobs in this country is through economic growth and reindustrialization. In 1994, manufacturing contributed 30% to the country's GDP. Now it only contributes 12%. So it is imperative that we start this engine of economic growth so that everything else in terms of social reform can happen successfully through beneficiation of the mineral resources we are endowed with in this country. That is the only solution.
Manzoor, there was the question or comment about being counter-revolutionary, that there is already a Muslim party and many Muslims were stalwarts of the ANC. Why do we have, I think they call them these Johnny-come-latelys?
I think if you ask yourself where the country was, where it is today, that will answer your question why we need other political parties. Because if those that are in governance have been performing, there was no need for other political parties. And the fact of the matter is this: the ANC has failed us. The DA in the Western Cape have failed the people of the DA. The IFP in KZN have failed the people of KZN. Let us be honest about this. That is why we need new politicians. We need statesmen and stateswomen. And the only way to do that is identify them from the next generation. Thank you.
Ahmed Parak, there was a question to Action SA about its stance on Palestine.
We came here, your pamphlet makes it very, very clear. Election debate. Why we keep coming up with Palestine? Nazir is 100% right. What is happening at the moment here in South Africa? We're fighting 2 wars. We got one war there and we got another war here. Fix this war first before you start worrying about Palestine. That man is right. He's blind and he's thinking aloud and he's saying one thing that, you know what? The rates. I will answer the question, my brother.
All right, thank you.
Secondly, ANC are going and approving the budget for the electricity, light, water rates, and yet the people are suffering. As far as your question is concerned, whether we support Palestine, yes, wholeheartedly. I'm a Muslim. I will support Palestine wholeheartedly. What my party does, and even ANC, now they collected 75 million. The Jewish lobby gives every single political party. So that is
Sorry.
Time. Okay, thank you. It's not me that's laboring the question, right? The question came from the floor, so I'm doing just justice to what's been asked from the floor. The IFP was asked the same question. Do you want to respond on the issue of Palestine? I'm coming.
On the issue of Palestine, I need to clear the misconception. Many people feel that we are supporting Israel. Now, if you look at the motion that was raised by the EFF in Parliament, the motion had 9 different clauses to it. And the last clause was close the embassies. Now, we said we cannot agree with that. Because if you close the embassies, who do you talk to? You need to be able to talk to somebody to negotiate so that you can find a solution.
But does the IFP believe that Israel is guilty of genocide and that it's an apartheid state?
We are totally against any form of violence against anybody. And we are saying,
okay, all right, fine.
And we are saying that the killing of anybody, whether it's women, children, whether it's Palestinians, whether it's Israelis, we are totally against that.
Noted. Manzoor, quickly.
I think we must understand something very important. We can't isolate Palestine from what is happening. If you don't address the issue of Palestine, and I can show you, the city of Cape Town is going to become another Palestine. I can assure you, what you are failing to understand, what is happening internationally in Palestine and Sudan and other countries, as a result of the interference and influence of countries like the United States. Why is it the black majority in this country is still suffering with poverty in the whole of Africa? It's because of the influence of the West. Why is there so much of disease? It's benefiting the West. Why is there civil unrest? It's benefiting the West. It's the influence that is causing what is happening in Palestine, and it's coming to South Africa soon. So I think we need to wake up.
Mervyn, there was a question from the gentleman about being scared when he sees EFF members on the street.
There were 2 questions.
Yeah, and the other one was about the abusive labor practices in the countries that you cited. Yeah.
Okay, firstly, I think the age where people exit schools in China and Russia is 16. And we are importing machinery, ideologies, and practices of business people. We are not importing slavery. That's the first thing. That's the second issue where the EFF makes, and surprisingly both are Action SA members, where he makes mention of EFF members walking down the street. I think one of the tenets of freedom of movement, you can go into any enclave, any community, any society and declare war on poverty, etc. So we're not apologetic to that if people are being.
Thank you. Imran, there was unemployment question, poverty, your consciousness as a Muslim in regards Palestine, and that in Cape Town only the rich are being looked after. Very quickly on those issues. Speak in the mic.
So the first one is that with regards to unemployment, the most recent labor force survey confirmed that the Western Cape continues to have the lowest unemployment rate, the lowest expanded unemployment rate, the highest employment to population rate in South Africa, and the highest labor force participation in South Africa. This is absolutely astounding. Furthermore, the Gini coefficient, if anybody knows what this measures, is the lowest in the Western Cape. That means that the closer you get to zero, the less inequality there is. If you look at the map of the Gini coefficient, Limpopo is the worst in South Africa, and the Western Cape is the best in South Africa. Stats South Africa measures this, not me. I don't measure it. I don't measure it. Stats South Africa measures it.
All right, let's move on
So
to the other
those
questions.
people that make those accusations, they can go and fly a kite. If election-
Silence.
With regards to the question about the rescue plan for South Africa, we have 7 points. In KwaZulu-Natal, we intend to create 300,000 jobs by investing in infrastructure, supporting businesses, and to help small and medium enterprises and job seekers. 2, we want to end load shedding in the province by sourcing new energy. Number 3, we want to fight for the creation of the provincial police service. Number 4, we want to create an independent provincial anti-corruption unit. Number 5, we want to guarantee that there's water in every tap. And number 6, we want to cut waiting times in facilities so people don't have to wait and die from cancer. And last one, establishing a schools evaluations authority to ensure that higher teaching standards are met across the province. This is our rescue plan.
Maggie, there was a number of questions, right, about membership fee, about simple logic. Justice is taking too long to run its course. The reintroduction of the Scorpions, using Palestine as a tool for electioneering. Those were some that I've noted. You may have noted others. Very quickly on each one.
I actually think I need more time because I'm asked more questions. But you know, they tell you that the dog always barks at the moving bus. The ANC is moving. That's why everyone's barking. So in terms of, let me start with the issue of Palestine. On the issue of Palestine, it's not a new matter for the ANC.
Okay, silence.
I think you need to add minutes as I get interrupted.
Right.
In terms of Palestine, it's not something new that the ANC has come up with for elections. If people were really interested, they would know that the ANC has a consistent position on Palestine ever since the problems of Palestine started. So ANC's resolutions are long-standing. They go back many years. Secondly, we have a historic relationship with the Palestinians. They supported us in our freedom struggle. We will certainly support them. We don't stab people in the back. Then on the issue of this membership, this issue of the membership card, etc., being produced for municipal jobs. Well, all I can say is that if there is the evidence, it must be provided because that is criminal. That is criminal.
They do worse than that.
I'm sorry, what was the other questions?
About the Scorpions, reintroductions.
Well, we've got the Hawks now, we've got the NPA, we've got a whole range of agencies that have been established. We have legislation that has been beefed up. We have the Special Investigations Unit that is doing sterling work, recovering billions. We have the improvement to the role of the Auditor General through the amended Public Audit Act, where the Auditor General has more teeth, and the NPA is being given additional support to do its work. So I don't think we need the Scorpions. We have enough agencies. What we would welcome is more evidence being brought forward so that people can be reported. I must say also that in the provincial government, the Department of Health alone in KwaZulu-Natal, there have been over 70 dismissals of employees engaged in wrongdoing. There are numerous disciplinary cases that are underway. There are many people that have left their jobs because they're being charged and they have been forced to pay back. We have people signing an acknowledgement of debt before they leave on pension, so that their pension is first paid over in terms of what they owe to government, and then they leave. So these are important things, and this is not enough of this is known. I must also say, by the way, that in this municipality, in terms of service delivery, the area I come from, it's entirely, all the councillors there are DA councillors. They don't call ward meetings, they don't report to people, they don't discuss the budget, they don't do anything. So when we talk about service delivery, let's talk about those DA councillors. And I'm talking about Chatsworth, by the way.
Right.
Every ward there is a DA ward. They don't call meetings, nothing. Luto.
Thank you. I'll come back to you, Ahmed. What we're going to do now is that, can we have silence? Can we have silence, please? Thank you. Thank you. We're going to ask the Ansar presenters to read out maybe 5 or 6 of the questions that have come in via WhatsApp. We'll ask the representatives to take notes. Then Mr. Sakur will facilitate the last round where you'll be able to make your concluding remarks. And whatever we've missed out, whatever you wanted to comment on and you didn't get a chance, you can do so in your concluding remarks because it's 10 to 10 and we want to wrap up at 10 o'clock as the advertised time. Siraj?
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Siraj Basa from Radio Al Ansar. My colleague Sumaya Khan and I have been receiving quite a few questions coming through from the WhatsApp line from people that are listening to us on 90.4 and 105.6. Well, quite a few comments have come through for the DA representative, Dr. Kika, with regards to Palestine, obviously. But this perhaps was answered, but this question goes from Naseem Mohammed. Can Dr. Kika please explain the huge disparities between the elite in the Western Cape and other poverty-stricken, crime-ridden areas like Khayelitsha, Mitchell's Plain, Langa, etc. Yet they want to rescue South Africa when they are only efficient in serving the elite. That comes through from Nasima. And Sam from Hanover, this is also for the DA. The DA is saying vote for change, but how do you propose to change things with the election results that they have previously achieved? How do they expect to install Chris Pappas as the KZN Premier, being a minor player in KZN politics? Is the DA being honest with potential voters? So that was to the DA representative, Dr. Kika. And for the from Sam in Hanover. For the ANC representative, it's from Anonymous in Pietermaritzburg. This person says, good evening, Ms. Maggie Govender. I think you are an honest politician, but I would like to ask you, why do we have leaders in our organization from the time of the CODESA 1 period? Senior leaders are always saying that we need younger people. Also, the branch elections, we have the same people being elected repeatedly. So that comes from Anonymous in Pietermaritzburg. And another one for the ANC representative as well. We are in democracy now for 30 years. Why is it that we are still subjected to discrimination in the workplace regarding our religious attire? In Islam, hijab is our identity, our protection, and it doesn't interfere with our work, yet we still face discrimination. Also, another question as to why BEE is still rife, and that is from Aziza here in Durban. So these are the questions that perhaps stood out the most as to things that were not answered already, and I think Sumaya's got a few as well.
Assalamu alaikum. There's a hell of a lot of questions, but I'm going to read out the questions that, as Siraj Basa said, that stands out. There's one question from a listener who'd like to remain anonymous. On the Muslim parties or parties with Muslim ethos, that's all the ones who are representing. Muslims are a minority in this country, and we already have one party that has been in parliament. Why was there a need to go form 3 more Muslim parties and divide the Muslim vote and waste it instead of working together? If you cannot unite in a small minority, how do you expect to work with the majority in the country? The next question, which also stood out, this is from Samira. IFP is coming from apartheid era 1975. Mangosuthu Buthelezi, you have been in the front line of power, but you have only served the majority. What have you done for the minorities? And you have formed coalition with the Devil's Alliance. Do you condemn the genocide Palestine? And you have also been involved in corruption with the DA. Your stronghold in Vryheid municipality for 500 million. What is your viewpoint to the IFP and the DA? I'll read just those 2 questions.
So we'll move on to Mr. Sakur now, who will facilitate the last concluding remarks and the closure.
Thank you, Maulana. Maulana is getting tired, so we ask you to take over. The WhatsApp questions, the first one is directed to Imran. There's 2 questions. One is in the Western Cape. What's happening there? The second one is about your favorite premier in elect Chris Pappas. Answer those 2 questions. If you can repeat the question, Siraj, the one on Chris Pappas.
Just coming back to that question again. The DA is saying vote for change, but how do you propose to change things with the elections results that you have previously achieved? And how do you expect to install Chris Papas as the KZN Premier, being a minor player in KZN politics? Is the DA being honest with potential voters?
Go ahead, Imran.
So the Democratic Alliance as a political party, we've given you the statistics. We've explained the figures to you already. We've shown you that we run the best municipalities in the country. There is no doubt about that. Anybody that wants to say otherwise, they must go and argue with the people that say these things like the Auditor General and everybody else. So we run the best municipalities. We create jobs in the Western Cape. We run the best healthcare system. We have the best schools, including a rapid school build program. So if they want to talk about the Western Cape, the DA runs that province not without faults, but the DA works. That's the difference. We are not claiming that we are perfect. I think it would be disingenuous to do so. So the reality is that we make mistakes. And people talk about corruption in the Western Cape and the city of Cape Town. It is our systems that find these. And we ensure that there is accountability. Unlike the ANC, they
give him a chance to
rearrange-
talk, please. Can we give him a chance to answer?
Unlike the cadres that are deployed by the ANC, they just rearrange the deck chairs on the sinking Titanic. They move them from one post to another instead of firing them. Maggie spoke about, from the ANC, she spoke about the legislature and she spoke about signing these acknowledgements of debt. The Department of Education that appeared before her, government by these people that are cheating government, has actually increased. So whatever they're doing is not working. Education is in crisis. Health is in crisis. Jobs are in crisis. The country is not running. And symbolically, we showed it with the burning flag. So,
Time,
with
Imran.
regards to
Imran, your time is up. I think 90 seconds is gone. Maggie, to you. Aziza from Durban wanted to know that 30 years into democracy, there is still discrimination that's going on. And secondly, the issue of why BE is still existing. And the third comment was on the issue of banning of the hijab is still existing. Comment on those issues.
You say our constitution doesn't comment on those issues. You say our constitution doesn't. Everyone has the right to religion to express themselves. So I'm not certain where everyone has the right to religion to express themselves. So I'm not certain religious attire is, and I think we actually should get the details of it and follow up on it, because I can't speak about it without concrete knowledge. I can't speak about it. And we need to find out what are the reasons for that as well. Because I'm not saying that it's incorrect. We need to find I think that it is incorrect to restrict. Because I'm not saying that it's incorrect. But there may be other reasons. And so until I have that, I'm not in a position to go beyond that, except to cite the Constitution. I'm not in a position. The second point about black economic empowerment. Well, we've had over 100 years of national economic empowerment, and that's taken a very long time. Our economic, we've all, and that's taken a very long time. And even in the Western Cape, in fact, particularly we see economic discrimination, particularly where there's opportunities for white people in the Western Cape, but the black people in the Western Cape are still living in Western Cape, in townships. They're living, when you drive from the airport, the first thing you see is an informal settlement in a terrible state that hasn't changed. So that's the reality.
Time, Maggie.
Yes, and then I just wanted to address the issue about the 30 years of democracy. Yes, and then somebody raised this point about not getting it right. We have built the most houses in this country. People have come without having houses. We've built houses for people. In the Indian areas, colored areas, people have been able to take ownership of their houses, which was not the situation pre-freedom. So there's also access. I mean, I hear a councillor here laughing. I don't know what she delivers in her constituency. I don't know if she even calls a meeting in her constituency. But all I'm saying is that the local government representatives themselves, right? The legislation is there. Call a ward meeting, call a ward committee, report on the budget to your constituency.
Maggie, your time is up. Please wrap up.
DA councillors don't do it.
Thank you, Maggie. Thank you. Okay, the next question, an anonymous listener has mentioned that Muslim parties are the minority. There's one party that was in government. Why is there a need for 3 more parties to divide the unity amongst Muslims? Now, I'm not sure whether the 3 minority parties represented are Muslims. So perhaps give Imam a chance to come in first. Minority parties.
Thank you very much. First of all, I think we need to ask ourselves, are the people looking for a Muslim party? Al-Jamaa has been here for 13 or 16 years, only got 1 seat, didn't make it on the first round, got it on the third round by default. The question is, what did Al-Jamaa do for all the time they've been in parliament? Nothing, absolutely nothing. The Muslim marriages bill is not an Al-Jamaa bill, it's a Home Affairs bill. Now, if you talk about Palestine...
Can we have silence? I'll give Al-Jamaa an opportunity to respond.
If you talk about the downgrading Palestine, the embassy in Jerusalem, came from myself. If you talk about visa-free entry, came from myself. If you talk about dealing with the headgear in the health sector, yes, it is. It was not Al-Jamaa that did nothing. Now, if people wanted to vote religiously, 85% of the population is Christian, and they're not voting for a Christian party. So there's no place for a Muslim party, but there is place for political parties that will have Islamic ethos and principles. But lastly, there was an attempt to bring all the parties together, the Muslim parties. Al-Jamaa agreed on it and backed out in the end. That is the fact of the matter.
Thank you, time.
And they backed out in the end. That is what has happened.
Imam, your time is up.
Eventually, what we've done is that this was what the option was. I do agree we need one party to represent our people, but not to only represent the Muslim population, to represent everybody.
Your time is up. I will give Al-Jamaa an opportunity to respond. Perhaps, Brother Asghar, you can come and respond to the queries raised and also one to others. Al-Jamaa an opportunity to respond. Can we have silence, please? Give Al-Jamaa an opportunity to respond. Al-Jamaa, can we have silence, please? Give Al-Jamaa an opportunity.
No, Shukran for the opportunity to respond. I think it's very important that we respond.
Please.
When he spoke, we gave him a chance to speak.
Silence, people. Let's listen to
Very important to respond.
Please.
I'm gonna respond to the first issues that were raised by the Mr. Manzoor. He raised the issue of Al-Jamaa failing in government. I'm gonna respond. He's not doing any better in any place anywhere else where he's got representation. You know, I said it earlier. He makes noise like thunder, but delivers nothing. Corruption will stop under Al-Jamaa, and we have shown it. We have shown it. The AG, Dr. Imran Kika, he mentions regarding the AG's reports, and we have shown it. If one has to just take a look at the AG's report where Al-Jamaa is an effective opposition or effective oversight, playing oversight role, you will find that UIFW has reduced greatly. The place where I come from, Amdoni municipality, when we went into office in 2021, the municipality had 680 million in UIFW. Currently, we are sitting with 18 million due to the oversight of Al-Jamaa. If we were happy with whatever other parties are doing, we would have told you, vote for them. We are saying that vote for Al-Jamaa because we are an effective oversight role over what is happening and give us that seat there. The issue of local government reforms was never even answered by the panelists. You speak about changing 1 or 2 policies to change procurement. That's not reform. Reform is saying, how are we going to ensure that local government delivers? Local government can never deliver if it's only getting 9% of the budget and is expected to do 70% of the work. That local government delivers. Can never deliver. The issue was raised of trying to get all parties together.
Please,
Asghar, you got 30 seconds to complete, please.
The issue was raised.
Please, 30 seconds. Give him a chance to complete his response.
Of bringing parties together.
Al-Jamaa, yes, we sat in those meetings, but we have a responsibility to ensure that the ethos of Islam spreads on a Muslim ticket. It spreads on a ticket where we're not gonna waver in our support to say that we are a Muslim party. Al-Jamaa is the only Muslim party that is there to represent the views of Muslims in accordance with the Quran and Sunnah. We are not there to say change the name of your party, change the logo of your party.
Thank you, Asghar. Your time is up. Can we have your attention, please? Okay, there's one final question. Can we have your silence? There's one final question. Samira, this question was raised to the IFP. You've been around since the apartheid era, 1975. You had various coalitions, and you really haven't been successful. Perhaps you want to comment.
I think, all of us have come from the apartheid era. And, one must not forget the role that Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi played in bringing an end to apartheid. He was the only black leader that was within the country and called for the release of all political prisoners that were abroad. He was the only one, the lone voice in the country. And he was asked by the ANC in exile to set up a cultural organization here in South Africa so that he cannot be banned and he can speak on behalf of the majority of the people that were in exile. And he called for the release of former President Mandela. So we must not forget the role that he has played and what he has done for us to have the democracy that we have right now.
Thank you.
We must not forget the role that he
Now
has.
we're coming to the closure of this debate. We're running out of time. We're 10 minutes over time, so we're going to wrap up in the next few minutes. Now is the most interesting part of the debate. Why should the voters who are listening to us in the next few minutes, whichever part of the country, should vote for your party? You've got 60 seconds to make your concluding comments. We start with the ANC. Should vote for your party.
I think people should vote for us because firstly, we acknowledge we made mistakes. We don't lie about it. And we also say that we are trying to renew ourselves and putting things right. But we also have a program. We've been successful in the past. We've been able to get grants to people. We've been able to keep people above the poverty line in the form of social grants. And although people may have problems about grants, poor people need them. We've been able to ensure that there are pensions that are given to people of all race groups. We've been able to ensure that schooling and education is accessible to the majority of poor South Africans. We've been able to ensure that tertiary education is made available to poor and middle income people as well. So those are very important things. Furthermore, we're ensuring and creating the opportunity for skills development that is part of the program. Our president has walked the talk, has been able to secure 1.3 trillion into investment into the country from foreign direct investment. This means that there will be more jobs created because that is how jobs are created. And we also have the presidential employment initiative, which is employing people right now, but building on that employment to ensure that skills are developed in partnership with business. We have a partnership with business. We want a partnership with civil society as well. And we think that together we can build South Africa.
Thank you, Maggie.
We want a partnership with civil society as well. And we think
Imran, you
that
got 60
together
seconds.
we can build South Africa.
Thank you, Maggie.
The DA works. We may not be perfect, but the DA works. Fortunately, no one believes the ANC. Our country is in crisis. It is burning. After just 30 years in government, the ANC has eroded the state institutions through its cadre deployment, through its corruption, and through its criminality. As a result, we no longer have reliable power. Crime is out of control. Too many children cannot read for meaning. As a result, hospitals are falling apart, and the rest of the economy and infrastructure is also fallen apart. The problems have killed South Africa's economic growth, prospects, and ability to create jobs. They talk about creating jobs. We are the worst in this area. The problems that the ANC have created will be difficult to recover from in the immediate term. We will start fixing what is broken in government by abolishing cadre deployment, firing the corrupt officials the first day we take appointment in government.
Thank you.
Abolishing cadre deployment, firing the corrupt
Mervyn?
This year marks exactly 30 years since the first inclusiveness elections in South Africa. As observed in our founding manifesto of the economic freedom fighters, political inclusion in South Africa has hardly translated into observable economic benefits for the majority of people who were oppressed and exploited under colonialism and apartheid. Black people remain landless. They remain on the margins of economic production and outside the life enhancing economic participation and opportunities.
They remain on
The majority of those that participate in the economy, those who are suppliers of cheap and easily disposable labor, landlessness and joblessness among Black South Africans are at crisis levels, posing the biggest challenges that confront South Africans. A vote for the EFF would eradicate already failing economy of 0.8% in the first quarter, and obviously the issue of the vicious cycle
already failing economy of
in the state.
0.8.
So the issue is currently landless people must now ensure that
in the state.
Sorry.
So the issue is currently.
Thank you.
Landless.
Mansoor?
Yes, thank you very much. The Allied Movement for Change, or AM4C, I think is one of the only choices you've got. Yes, thank you very much. And we are not saying that we will perhaps be governing entirely, but whoever we govern with, we will ensure there's the highest level of morality, ethics, and values. Very importantly, we have solutions to the issue of the high levels of crime and corruption, the economic growth, including the health. We know and understand best what the challenges are in the country. And in terms of the education, we have said loud and clear, the emphasis will be on quality, not on quantity. And most importantly, what we want to address in this country is the high levels of inequality. We want to ensure we have a more equal society. And for this, it's not just the manifestos. If you can see, I'm not reading from any manifesto, because we own what we are talking about. We own what we want to actually implement.
Thank you. Thank you, Ahmed. Time. Les Govender.
Thank you very much. We call upon all South Africans to vote for the IFP on the 29th of May.
Les Govender.
The reason that we are saying this is because the IFP has a track record of having served in all three spheres of government. The reason that from 1994 to 2004, the IFP was in governance in this province. And there wasn't any allegations of fraud or corruption or maladministration while we governed KZN. And the problems that you are facing right now were non-existent at that time. So we are saying to you, give us your vote. And also keep in mind that our premier candidate, who is the mayor of the King Ketshwayo district, we are saying to you, has just been given a clean audit by the Auditor General. Now, imagine if he was the premier of KZN, what more you will be able to do to improve the lives of the citizens of our province. So we are saying that we have leaders in all spheres of government, and we will be able to change things around. And we have a track record of clean governance, and that is what we will bring to the table.
Thank you. Ahmed Parak, Action SA.
Why you need to vote for Action SA? We are only in the 6 municipalities in the country. We have already got councillors. Why you need to vote for Action SA? Now we are only in the contesting the national election in the country. We have already. We are the only party that in all the municipalities holding the ANC accountable, and we are in the court already. We exposed them all the municipality. Also, now 6 million from this new budget they have to write off. 6 billion. This is the ANC. Also, we cannot give them another 5 years and suffer like what we are suffering. Therefore, I'm saying the Action SA is going to go there and make whoever is there in government accountable and give you service delivery. That's our aim and object, and this is what we're going to do.
Thank you.
Whoever is there in government accountable.
Rashid Kata.
That's our
Kinako.
This is what we're going to
It
do.
is time for change. We cannot wait any longer for the ruling party to change. We have taken it upon ourselves. We cannot at the Sun Party to guarantee change to South Africa. South African people deserve better. This is a rich country, but only a few people are benefiting at the expense of the masses. There is an indignity when people cannot receive water. We at Sun Party guarantee change. You've given the ruling party 30 years.
give us only 5. We at Sun won't disappoint you. Guaranteed.
Thank you, Rashid.
Before we conclude tonight's debate with a vote of thanks by Sister Sumaya Khan, I'd like Mulana Suleiman Rawat to say a few words about this very inspiring book that he's written, and he wants to hand over a copy to each one of the panelists. Mulana,
to say a few words. Very inspiring. So, this book is titled In Pursuit of Purpose. I've given the president a copy as well, and I'm hoping you'll get some chance to read it. I know you're very busy campaigning, but if you can now, otherwise post the elections, I'm sure it will be useful and helpful in helping you discover the ultimate purpose to be of service to the citizens of South Africa. Thank you so much for your time this evening and for your participation. And I'll give you a copy of the book to the citizens of South Africa. Thank you so much for your time. For the greatest of pleasure.
Yes, I will. Sign them and hand it over, and then we'll do our concluding comments and vote of thanks.
For the greatest of pleasure. Yes, I will.
Sign them and hand it over, and then we'll conclude. Please be patient for a minute or so. Please be patient for a minute or so.
So, listeners on Radio Al Ansar and Radio Islam, you are listening to the live debate, and we are concluding shortly. Maulana is just signing the books that he's given as gifts to all the participants. And while Maulana is signing the book, Mr. Yunus Sakur will conclude and hand over to Sumaya for a lot of thanks. Participants.
Yes, if you could be just patient for a few minutes while Maulana is concluding his signature to the books to 2 or 3 other panelists. We will then conclude and ask Sumaya Khan to give a vote of thanks to the books to 2 or 3 other panelists. We will then conclude and ask Sister Sumaya Khan to do the vote of thanks. Thank you, Maulana, and much appreciated on behalf of the panelists for giving them the books. Just to conclude, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've had an inspiring and a vibrant debate this evening. Just to conclude, extremely well by Maulana and others. I think we've had some very thought-provoking questions and responses, and a well-behaved audience. We really are proud of you this evening. Thank you for joining us. To conclude today's debate, I would request Sister Sumaya Khan, one of the presenters in Radio Al Ansar, to do the vote of thanks. Sumaya. To conclude today's debate, I would request Sister Sumaya Khan, one of the presenters in Radio Al Ansar,
I was thinking of starting my own political party.
I guess everybody.
Okay.
We're not joining the EFF, Sumaya.
I'll leave it. Okay, you know what? I'd like to thank everyone who was involved today. The CEO of Al Ansar, Mr. Yunus Sakur, and the board members and staff, as well as Maulana Suleiman Rawat, the CEO of Radio Islam International. We have partnered this debate with Al Ansar, as well as each and every single guest speaker. I cannot just mention them, I have to mention each one of them. Mr. Rashid Gata from Sun, Mr. Ahmed Paruk from Action SA. I don't see any of your supporters cheering you as I'm mentioning the names. IFP Les Govender, Ahmed Manzoor Sheikh, Imam from AM4C, EFF, Mr. Mervyn Govender. No, I'm not aligned to him yet. The DA, Mr. Imran Keka, Mr. Mervyn Govender. No, I'm not aligned to him yet. And the Honorable Maggie Govender, I have to say, Amandla. And the mediator, Maulana Suleiman Rawat, and the mediator, Mr. Sakur, and also we have our brothers from United for Palestine, Abdul Balodia and Imran Sabrati. The mediator, Mr. Sakur, and also we have our brothers from United. I also like to, our guest speakers from the political parties, you're all present here this evening. You all responded appropriately and was totally well behaved. You know what? This wasn't Parliament. You all responded. So you had the opportunity to misbehave. Well, you all responded responded appropriately to all the questions raised. All of you that attended this debate, as well as the listeners on the various platforms, on Facebook, on Radio Al Ansar, and on Hilal TV. Our various service providers who made this event a huge success, for everyone who worked behind the scenes, and the local communities who attended. In conclusion, I trust that all present and our listeners will now have some clarity on how to vote and who to vote in this critical election 2024. Well, we'll be having many more political debates with Brother Yunus Sakur, with Siraj Basa, with me and other presenters of Radio Al Ansar and on Radio Islam. So everyone, I hope your buses and taxis are out there. That's the norm of South Africa. Safe home and Amandla. Viva South Africa. Viva!
Thank you, Sumaya, for that inspiring vote of thanks. That brings us to the conclusion of the debate for this evening. Once again, thank you for all of you and all the best for the elections coming. Inspiring vote of thanks. That brings us to the conclusion of the debate for this evening. Once again, thank you for all of you and all the best for the elections coming.
Radio. Visit our showroom for the full range of car audio. Our TV department carries top brands with quality LED panels, full HD to Ultra HD, and now the experience of Super Ultra HD. Visit our theater rooms and transform your home with brands like Onkyo, Integra, Dennett, Boston Acoustics, Yamaha, and more for quality audio visual experience. Now available full range of home appliances. A one-stop shopping experience. Call 03 4029 or Kenilworth Park 202 Brickfield Road, Report. Simplex Radio, the name you can trust.
There's nothing quite like the taste of a traditional family meal, and at the heart of every great dish is a key ingredient that brings it all together. That ingredient is sunflower, pure sunflower cooking oil, made from only the finest sunflower seeds. It's a perfect way to enhance the taste of your family's favorite foods. Sunflower cooking oil is more than just oil. It's the key to bring your family together over a delicious meal and making every bite taste better. Remember, the key ingredient to a great family meal is sunflower. Tradition just tastes better.
In order to streamline our operations and ensure your donations reach those in need swiftly and efficiently, the Al Ansar Relief and Welfare has updated banking details for the Lila and Sadaqah contributions. Bank, SMB, account name, Outreach Al Ansar, account type, check account number 631-0020-3081, branch, Florida Road. Your generosity fuels our mission to uplift communities, provide essential aid, and offer hope to those facing adversity. With these new banking details, your donations will continue to make a profound impact on the lives of countless individuals in need. Jazakallah for your continued support, and together we can create positive change and spread compassion far and wide.
As our bookshop Lifestyle Center, we help you design your wardrobe with its latest range of festival Islamic women products.
We'd love to meet you. Pay us a visit. Radio Al Ansar.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
In the name of Allah, the entirely merciful, the especially merciful.
الحمد لله الذي أنزل على عبده الكتاب ولم يجعل له
Allah, who has sent it upon his servant and has not made therein any deviance.
قيما لينذر بأسا شديدا ويبشر المؤمنين.
Imran, thank you. Mervin?
Okay, this year marks exactly 30 years since the first inclusiveness elections in South Africa. As observed in our founding manifesto of the economic freedom fighters, political inclusion in South Africa has hardly translated into observable economic benefits for the majority of people who were oppressed and exploited under colonialism come apartheid. Black people remain landless, They remain on the margins of economic production and outside the life and enhancing economic participation and opportunities. If the majority of those that participate in the economy do so as suppliers of cheap and easily disposable labor, landlessness and joblessness among Black South Africans are at crisis levels, posing the biggest challenges that confront South Africa today. A vote for the EFF would eradicate already failing economy of 0.8% in the first quarter, and obviously the issue of the vicious cycle of underdevelopment in the state. So the issue is currently landless people must now ensure that. Sorry.
Thank you. Ahmed Mansoor.
Yes, thank you very much. The Allied Movement for Change, or AM4C, I think is one of the only choices you've got. And we are not saying that we will perhaps be governing entirely, but whoever we govern with, we will ensure there's the highest level of morality, ethics, and values. Very importantly, we have solutions to the issue of the high levels of crime and corruption, the economic growth, including the health. We know and understand best what the challenges are in the country. And in terms of the education, we have said loud and clear, the emphasis will be on quality, not on quantity. And most importantly, what we want to address in this country is the high levels of inequality. We want to ensure we have a more equal society. And for this, it's not just the manifesto. If you can see, I'm not reading from any manifesto because we own what we are talking about. We own what we want to actually implement.
Thank you. Thank you, Ahmed. Les Govender.
Thank you very much. We call upon all South Africans to vote for the IFP on the 29th of May. The reason that we are saying this is because the IFP has a track record of having served in all three spheres of government. From 1994 to 2004, the IFP was in governance in this province. And there wasn't any allegations of fraud or corruption or maladministration while we governed KZN. And the problems that you are facing right now were non-existent at that time. So we are saying to you, give us your vote. And also keep in mind that our premier candidate, who is a mayor of the King Ketshwayo district, has just been given a clean audit by the Auditor General. Now, imagine if he was the premier of KZN, what more he will be able to.
And in time.
عليك نبأهم بالحق إنهم فتية آمنوا بربهم وزدناهم هدى.
It is we who relate to you, O Muhammad, their story in truth. Indeed, they were youths who believed in their Lord, and we increased them in guidance.
وربطنا على قلوبهم إذ قاموا فقالوا ربنا لن ندعو من دونه إلها لقد قلنا إذا شططا.
And we made firm their hearts when they